Hello everyone, and welcome back to my next video. Here, scattered across the bench, I have what has come out of this mower right here, this little guy right here. This engine was run sparse of oil, and it would not run. It spit and sputtered. It just blew out some black smoke. This thing would not run hardly at all. So I tore it apart. I've cleaned it up, and this video is going to be some of the kind of the refurbing and reassembly of this. It's a 3.5 horsepower Briggs Classic. It's from the mid 90s. I believe the date code is 95 maybe. Let me see. Date code is, don't have my glasses now, 94. So this thing was built in 1994. Briggs Classic 3.5. Basic lawnmower engine from years past. So that's what this is going to be, and what I want to do is I want to make this thing actually look classic, kind of in the vein of this guy right here. I'm going to paint this white. I actually had to order paint from Amazon because locally I cannot find white high temp enamel. Yeah, so I've got that coming. I do want to sandblast this block, and what I'm going to do is put the head on, the sump on, and just stuff some blue towel in the crank journal holes and stuff like that, and the intake holes, the exhaust, all of that kind of stuff. And I want to just sandblast this nice and clean, get it ready for our white high temp enamel, and go from there. Then it'll be all of the assembly. Now move this forward a little bit. I'm going to get you a little closer. And I did have to purchase a new rod because here's the old rod. And if you see, this baby got a lot of scoring on it. See that? Just a ton of scoring. So, and if I show you the cap, here's the cap. See how chewed up that is? Yeah, so that's being replaced. I do have over here someplace I have a rod, new rod, and I have seal kit for this motor. Yeah, so I got all of the bolts, the sump and the head bolts all have been cleaned, degreased and cleaned. I believe I gotta wash the valve cover, the breather. I'm gonna have to clean that as well because that's getting painted, and I don't think I washed that at all, so that's got to get done. Yeah, and we'll go from there. Get this thing looking actually like a Briggs Classic engine. I think it'll look pretty darn sweet. The oil ring was stuck in the piston. I had to break it off. I just decided to replace the rings. Piston is fine. I got to clean that carbon off a little bit better, but there's really no scoring on the piston. It's just really, really minimal. So that actually looks nice. This is pointing towards the valves. This is a unit. I don't know if that really matters on this piston. You may be able to just put this in either way. I don't know. But I'm going to put it in the way that it was. And the piston pin is right here. I measured this with my mic, and it is within spec. It's fine. So, yeah. There you go. I got the head cleaned up pretty good. It cleaned up really good, actually. We're going to blast all of this and get it all cleaned up. So yeah. Okay, as you can probably hear, I got the ultrasonic cleaning, the breather. Which goes right here, obviously, the breather cover, valve cover. I got this put together just with the sump bolts, the head bolts, and I got all the passages, the important stuff kind of blocked off. I got intake and exhaust ports blocked. I got tape on the ends. I'm waiting for that breather to get good and clean so that I can put it back together. I actually took it apart. I'll go over, take you over there to that. Get around my little mini bike. That's the breather. Don't ask me why I've got cleaner on the out. This was a last minute thing to put that in the jar because I got tired of changing the water, the cleaning solution in here. So eventually I'm going to have just water in here, and my cleaning solution will be in the jar with the parts. I'm just transitioning to that. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and get that cleaned up, pull it out of here when it's done. This is actually the second 15-minute run on it, and then put it back together, and the whole assembly will go into the blast cabinet, and we will sandblast this baby. And here are just some other parts to be blasted. The intake, and I have taped off the sealing surface. Rewind cover, mesh, air cleaner stuff, breather tube, yeah, a few other parts. I got to do some bolt cleaning as well. I can blast this. And that's about it. I have cleaned the valves and I've checked them for straightness. They are straight as can be, and they're clean. They're in good shape. There you go. So this thing's got about 4 minutes left of cleaning, then I'll reassemble that and blast. Okay, various parts have come out of the cleaner. Here's the breather filter, washed, and some various bolts that will go into threaded areas on this. I want to block off any of these holes, like, well, this one's going to have the breather in it, but like these holes, the holes down here, the intake holes right over here. Where are the intake holes? Right there. I'm going to block the intake with those. Those bolts are going to be reconditioned anyway, so it ain't going to hurt them to get sandblasted. So I want to go ahead and put this breather back together and put it on here, and then put all of these screws where they go. And this is just another part that I cleaned that's going to be sand blasted. So put it in the sandblast parts. I got the starter clutch in there. Everything, I got everything that I want to blast is in there. Okay, so I'll go ahead, sort this all out. This just goes in here like so. This goes on here, clamp it, and then install it. Okay, yeah, just back this off. We'll go ahead and use the small vise to clamp this. So I just got a little filter in there. Put this on here like so. And one thing I don't like is these are really bent out. I really bent them out. There we go. Now it should clamp good. Maybe. We'll see. Okay. In there. That's pretty good. I'll go ahead with a pair of pliers and kind of finish that off. And here it is, clamped nicely. So we will go ahead, put that onto the engine, and we'll be ready to blast. Alright, here it is, ready to blast. Got the valve cover on, we got these bolts installed to protect those threads. All these bolts. And this guy. A plug in there. I'm going to replace the plug so that can be the blast plug. No big deal. So okay, that's it. Blast time. Well, the engine took quite some time to sandblast because I have a just a little 30-gallon air compressor, and that thing needs to refill. It needs to catch up constantly. So I can only really sandblast for a good 5, 6, 7 minutes before I have to stop, let that thing catch up. It's pretty annoying, but I mean, it's not perfect. There's still some black around, but I think I got it pretty good. Yeah, so we get all of the paper stuff, tape off of it. And this needs to be washed now, of course. But came out pretty good. Happy with it. It's clean, blasted. It'll be take paint really well. So I guess the next thing is I got paint, should be coming today or tomorrow or whatever. I need to clean this. I need to disassemble this again, clean everything, and get it prepped and ready for paint. That'll be the next course of action. I'm going to let my poor air compressor cool off. It's been running almost non-stop for a couple of hours at least while I was doing that, because I do still have my dog bowl full of parts to blast. So I will do that. And I tell you, this thing works like a charm, man, the sandblaster. I bought this and I did all of the modifications that you would do. I got my metering valve on there and brought my lines up into it, and it works absolutely great. But I really need a 60-gallon, I need a 60 to 80-gallon air compressor. So that thing just cannot keep up. So I have to keep just letting it catch back up and everything. These little parts shouldn't be as big of a deal. I should be able to blast those out really quick. No problem. Doing this engine was a different story, so I'm glad I got it done. So we'll go ahead and get that thing disassembled. I'll clean it all really good. And what I'm going to do with my sonic cleaner is, since I'm now, I like putting, I got the governor air vane, I got that in there, I cleaned that. But what I really want to do is drain all of this and just fill this with water and put my cleaning solution in here, and then put that in here while I clean parts. But to do my engine, I'm just going to do that in like a 5-gallon bucket and hot soapy water and clean it that way. I don't think I need to sonically clean that. Maybe, I don't know, I might dump it in here with just water to sonically knock off anything. Maybe a little dish soap. So I do want to drain this, or I could just use this. I guess I'll just use this to clean the engine. And then going forward, I'm just going to have water in here and use glass jars in there so that I don't have to mess around with draining and cleaning this. But I will fill this with water a little bit more and use what's in it to sonically clean the engine and get it ready for paint. Okay, got everything disassembled, and I think it looks really good. Got most of the black off. It'll paint nice. The engine block valve seats look really good. I did hone this engine. It is a aluminum bore, and I know they say don't hone aluminum bores, but I did it very, very lightly. And it put a good cross hatch on there. and I think it looks great. There was only minor scoring, so yeah, it came out really good. I think it looks great. So this needs to be thoroughly washed before paint. So I'll do that, get this all super clean, and then we'll be ready for paint. I am still waiting for the paint to show up from Amazon. I ordered it. And boy, this is I gotta disassemble this guy, because I do have to paint this. And I'm gonna have to sandblast this thing and paint it. I'm gonna mask off all of this and blast that really good. So yeah, cool. All right, next step, wait on paint, get this washed ready for paint. And I'm letting my compressor cool down. That's going to be a project in the future. Nice old circa 1972 monster of a snowblower. Tecumseh 6 horsepower engine on it needs to be gone through. It ran 10 years ago, but it's been sitting for 10 years. Thing's a beast. This will be a project sometime during the winter probably. It just needs to be gone through. Engine leaks oil, so the engine needs to be addressed, and it needs drive belts and stuff like that. Just maintenance and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm going to get to all of this blasting once that thing cools down completely. Then I'll fire it back up, pressurize it again, and blast this stuff really quick. Right, I finally got around to draining my ultrasonic cleaner. And look at all the blast media that was left over. And that, my friends, is why you have to clean after you blast. So I'll go ahead and clean this all out. And here's all this. I'll dispose of this. And yeah, I'm making an upgrade to the shop here. That's a big time downgrade to me right there. Upgrade to the shop, downgrade for me personally. Anyway, yeah. Putting in an air dryer. This comes from this is going to go in right here from my little air compressor, because my air is it's got way too much moisture and stuff and oil and whatnot in it. So yeah, it's making it to where that's very hit or miss on working. So I'm going to incorporate this, but I got to go to the hardware store tomorrow and get some fittings. I just need bushings. I need 1/2 inch to 3/8 bushing, because this obviously is going to go onto here, and then I've got a 50-foot. I bought a 50-foot cord here and put ends on it, and that will connect into this side, and then this will just go wherever I want it to. So the plan is, and that way I'd never have to move that can just be stationary. That's how it should be. Now the plan long term is I would like to get an 80-gallon air compressor, but right now that's what I got, and that's what I have to work with. But the air is it has way too much moisture in it. So yeah, that had to be done. I had to deal with that. So that's that. Got the engine over here chilling. Parts look awesome, nice and clean. Hopefully I get my paint tomorrow, but I'm not going to paint this until I get it together, and then I'll just tape off the crankshaft and stuff, and then I'll paint it once it's built. There's no point in painting it when it's not built. So this is clean and dry. This will be sandblasted, but I'm waiting until I get my air situation all taken care of. So, and I bought this Harbor Freight. I'll just get one of these, why not? I was able to blast that guy good. All this stuff has been blasted and cleaned. Cleaned what needs to be cleaned anyway. So I had to take the rewind off. Put that back on. So tomorrow I'm going to the hardware store. I've got my thread sizes. I need a bushing. Basically it'll be this without the barb, and on the inside will be threads for this to go in. So alright, I got these two guys ready to go. Those are the two fittings that are going to go in my air dryer. So that's an air dryer and filter. So yeah, that's a great improvement for air. So yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead, clean my ultrasonic cleaner, and then call it a night. See you tomorrow. Alright, we're back. Alright, I got this blasted, and I washed it, so it's still, you can still see it's got a little water moisture. It needs to evap on out of there. Got it blasted nice. I was able to remove, I had to use my heat gun, heat these up and scrape the stickers off, and then blasted clean. So it looks really good. We still got our engine code here. Side note on my Sandblaster, this thing was so hit and miss and not running, just not performing well. I ended up taking the gun off and took the tip off of it, and the tip was partially broken, and clogging up the hole a little bit. But the bigger thing was, this thing had sucked up a piece of, no, I bought this used, okay? The story on the Sandblaster is I bought it on Facebook Marketplace. I bought it used, and I brought it home, and I did a bunch of these mods to it. I did the metering valve mod, and I did the glass mod with the outward wing nuts. I did wing nuts because my hardware store didn't have the thumb screws. I put a pressure valve on it, and of course I put this. I just put a power strip on it. I didn't do anything with the lighting because I think the lights are fine. I think that's overkill. And yeah, so I did all of that, but it still just would not work quite right. It would work good, and then it would just absolutely stop working. So yeah, this thing, the previous owner, whoever had this, there's a little piece of plastic, a little round piece of plastic that was stuck in the gun, blocking the media path back up to the gun. So I took that apart. I got that piece of plastic out of there, and now it works perfect. Of course, I still do have I need a new air compressor. That we all know that. So yeah, this thing blasted really nicely. I got this hooked up, my air dryer. So this is my output of the air dryer here, and just wrapped around here. I got a nice 50-foot hose here. I got my piston rings for this thing, Stens. But I got them on Amazon, I think, but I bought the Stens rings because they're a little cheaper, and I don't need to go super expensive with this. So I've got everything that I need now. And I also got my high temp paint, white and black. So yeah, I'll be going and painting with the white, so I can actually start assembling this engine now that I have all that I need. So let's do that. All right, everything hung up, ready to be painted. I'll go ahead and paint. Come on. Got the peak up. I start spinning spot on. Alright. I need to let this dry and then come back with another coat. And I need to reposition everything so I can get the bottom side of it and everything. So I'll let this dry and come back and paint again. And here are the painted parts. And boy, did they come out nice. One thing about this paint, and you all can comment down below, because I'm no paint expert, but I've painted plenty with a regular, run-of-the-mill Rust-Oleum that you buy off of the store shelves. Let me see if I can show you an example of what I'm talking about. I don't know if I have any paint. Well, here's a metallic one. This is Rust-Oleum. It's metallic. It's just your basic paint. Here's a crystal clear enamel. This stuff does not work like this paint. This is what I put on. This is the paint that I used on this, but of course I used white. And it just goes on different. It feels different. It looks different. It almost looks like powder coat. It does look like powder coat, for real. Why is that? This is the first time I've used this type of paint. And I don't understand why it goes on looking like this. It looks like powder coat. It don't look like paint. So comment down below, why is that? What is the makeup of this paint that makes it different than, say, this paint right here? Okay. Now I know this is a gloss paint. I get that. I painted this with just a basic Rust-Oleum black. But it goes on shiny and it just doesn't feel as... It feels like this paint right here would be harder to scrape off than that. It's just better paint. And it's cheap. This stuff was like $7. Shipped from Amazon. $7 a can. So yeah. But it looks great. These parts look awesome. So I'm just waiting on those couple engine parts, the valve. Just the valve. I did buy a starter clutch socket, the big socket that goes over the starter clutch. I did buy one of those. They're cheap enough. I go ahead and just buy one. So it's like $14 for one of those. Okay, yeah. Painted parts looking great. So I got the one clip in. I need to get one of those what you might call it, a 10 times magnifying thing that you can move around, clip onto the desk and move around. I need to get one of those because I just can't see what I'm doing most of the time. I'm going to put a little bit of this assembly lube on this, a little bit in here. I already got a little bit into there, and see if we can move our pin in here. And this is going to go like this, so yeah, this goes like this. Okay. So that goes towards the valves, and that is out. Yep, that's how it goes. Now I got to get this other piston pin circlip in there. Let me get that in there off camera and I'll be back. Okay, both clips are in. Piston is assembled on the rod. One last check. The arrow goes to the valves and this does go like that. So, yep, it's in there the correct way. Next we got to put the rings on the piston. Okay, piston is ringed. And these are actually, well yeah, one of them says top and the other says bottom, and they're in the right way. They're on correctly. So I got my rod on now and I got my rings on the piston. So that I can set aside. And we can move on to the next thing. I kind of want to clean the crank up a little bit. I should have probably done that before, but I'm going to do it now. Okay, I just ran the PTO end of the crank on the wire wheel really quick. It's in really good shape, really clean. The bore is pretty good. I mean, it's really good. Even though the rod was all scored up, this really wasn't. So Before I do that though, I need to put the seals in here and get this thing, at least get the seals in. So let me open up that gasket kit and pound some seals into this stuff. Okay, got one of the seals in. Now this one, main seal on the bottom. That's that. Okay, seals are in. Put this up. Let's get the crank journals lubed up good. There we go. All right, let me get something to lay that on and continue on. Yeah, I'd forgotten they pre-torque the rod bolts. Remove said rod bolts. Okay, there we go. And let me go ahead and get the piston installer, and compression ring compressor. Goodness. Okay, I've really greased up the cylinder with that lube, engine assembly lube. Drop this guy down in here. Actually, the next thing I want to do is lap the valves. This one's going to be too big. So, we'll start with the exhaust. Just get a little bit of this stuff. It puts a good little shine on there. Not bad. Let's get a clean towel and make sure I'm using a clean towel to get in here and clean the seat. And might want to use a touch of solvent as well. Really clean it good. And your valve. There we go. That's a good seal. That'll work. That was done. Now we grab the intake, do the same thing. Little grind compound. Okay. Well, that don't want to stick. Yeah, that ain't going to stick. Okay, so yeah, I just had to clean a little bit. I went ahead and lapped the intake. It's a good seal. So that one is good to go. So the valves are lapped and cleaned. I always make sure I clean with a solvent such as, a lacquer thinner or something like that. Such as that. And the valves nice and clean. You don't need none of that grinding compound left over. You want to get all of that off. Clean really well. I don't even know if that was in shot, but there you go. Okay, valves are done. Valves are good and clean and done. So we can do cam, lifters, and valves. Okay, I'm going to take some of this motor assembly grease and put down into the, just put some of it down into where the cam rides. Okay, put a little on the cam gear itself. Okay, the cam itself. You know what I want to do is just grab a clean towel and just kind of wipe this. Wipe it clean. Okay. And let's find the timing gear. Of course, I can't see very good. It might be upside down. And can't find it. There it is. It's so dark in here, I can barely see what I'm doing. Now I gotta find it again. Alright. Let me get the flashlight so that I can see. There it is. Okay, try that. Try that out for size, see how that works. Okay. And grease up the cam, the lobes. I got to put the lifters in. So let's do that now. This is the exhaust lifter. And the intake lifter. I want to put the intake in first because it's the one on the bottom. It's intake. I'll go ahead and put some of this grease on there. And in it goes. If I can see, of course. There we go. Okay. And the exhaust. All right. Okay. And then our cam with the timing mark there. Turn. I have to remove it. I can't turn this. I should do it. Oh. There we go. Now it's lined up. These plastic gears, it's hard to tell. So that's that. Okay. And let's set the engine down and move back. There's our exhaust. Oh. And our intake. Okay, now I want to check with the feeler gauges and just check our clearance. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Intake, I have a 6/1000, and that's about what the intake is 6. Exhaust is loose at 6. So go to 7. Intake should be quite tight at 6 or 7. 7 does fit in the intake, but it's really draggy. Exhaust is still loose. Okay, now we have 8/1000, and that does not fit in the intake. It kind of does, but only if I jam it in there. And that fits easily in the exhaust. So let's go to 9/1000 for the exhaust. And that's easy. And let's go to 10/1000 on the exhaust. Very, very loose. This is 11/1000 on the exhaust. extremely loose still. Let's go up to let's jump up to 15 thousandths. 15. I'd say that's about where it is 15. 15's still quite, I mean, it's not loose, but it's draggy. Here's 16 thousandths. 16 does go in, no problem. And I am pushing down on the exhaust valve as I'm doing this. And here is 18 thousandths on the exhaust valve. And this is the problem with this engine right here. Here's 20 thousandths on the exhaust valve. And it is just fits, and it pushes the valve just slightly. So it's at about 19 thousandths. So we were at 7 thousandths on the intake, 19 on the exhaust. 19. So we'll see what the they say the clearance is, the reject. But I know that's way out of tolerance. So we've got a 19 thousandths and a, I think it was 8. I think it was 8. 22, 12, 10, 9, 8 on the intake. Let me check the intake with an 8. Yeah. I'd say the intake is at 8. So 8 and 19. 8 and 19. Let's see what the reject sizes are. I might need both new valves. I don't know yet. But let me check it out. 8 on the intake, 19 on the exhaust. Yeah, so I looked up the clearances, and max clearance for the intake is 7 thousandths, and we're at 8 on this, and 8 is tight. I think I'm going to roll with that. I don't want to put too much money into this, more than I already have. This is kind of a labor of love. I'm not going to make my money back on this. I'm going to keep this engine. I'm going to just put it on a lawnmower and keep it and run it. But yeah, that exhaust valve has to be replaced. The max clearance on that is 9 thousandths, and we were at 19. 20, I could push 20 in there, so we're way over tolerance on that exhaust valve, and that would explain why this thing just spit and sputtered and wouldn't hardly run, blew black smoke out, backfired, just ran like general crap. I thought it was going to be a bad cam, and to my surprise I pulled the cam out and the cam looks fine. So yeah, that explains the bad running. So yeah. All right, yeah. So I'm going to order up an exhaust valve, and I'll have to wait for that. And we'll lap that in and set the clearance on that. So, all right. Well, I'm going to put this on hold till we get that. I'm going to just cover this up.